My name's Josh Wurtzel, and I'm a partner at Stone & Dolan. Today I'm going to be talking about good guy guarantees and how a landlord can potentially prevent a tenant from exercising the good guy. So a good guy guarantee is a guarantee that someone other than the tenant gives. It says that the guarantor is going to be responsible for everything that's the tenant is obligated to pay under the lease, except the guarantor can get out of the guarantee usually by giving a certain amount of notice to the landlord, anywhere, let's say 90 to 120 days, and surrendering the premises. And generally you have to be fully paid at the time of surrender as well. One of the requirements to exercise the good guy clause in the guarantee is usually that the tenant has to surrender the premises in the condition and in the manner as set forth under the lease. Sometimes it'll say that the tenant has to surrender the premises in the condition set forth in the lease and as otherwise required by the lease. So what some landlords have argued is that the language in the guarantee that says that you have to surrender in the manner as otherwise required by the lease incorporates into it a section in the underlying lease that's in the standard form portion of the lease, in the non-waiver section. It's the requirement that the landlord has to give a signed writing in order to be deemed to have accepted a surrender. That language incorporates the section in the non-waiver section of the lease that says that the landlord has to basically sign off on a surrender. Now, the practical effect of that is that the guarantor could never exercise the good guy clause of the guarantee without getting the landlord's consent, because the landlord could always say, I'm not accepting the surrender, I'm not giving you a signature, thus you're not permitted to exercise the good guy clause in the good guy guarantee. So there's a tension there, but there have been cases, including recent cases in the First Department, that hold that that language, as otherwise required by the lease in the guarantee, includes the requirement in the non-waiver section of the lease that says that the landlord has to give a signature in order for there to be a surrender. So what that means is that the landlord effectively has a veto over any surrender, and thus a veto over whether the guarantor can exercise the good guy clause of the good guy guarantee. So this becomes very important on both sides. So if you are a commercial tenant negotiating a lease, you want to make sure that in the guarantee, there's not this language that says that a surrender has to be as otherwise required by the lease, right? Now, as a landlord, on the flip side, you want to put that language in, and that language is fairly common. The other thing to remember is after the lease has been drafted and the tenant is exercising the good guy, if you're the landlord and you want to play hardball, which I always advise my clients to do, you can take the position, relying on this recent First Department case law, that the guarantor cannot effectively exercise the good guy clause in the guarantee without getting a signature from the landlord approving the surrender. And that, as a landlord, will give you a lot of leverage over the tenant and the guarantor who's ultimately trying to get out of the lease early.